Hey everybody, welcome to the GameGO podcast, where we talk about video games and whatever else we feel like. This is episode 5, where this is H8BitHero and Sonorith.
Hello.
Let's start up with some updates and news. It's been a long, good week in gaming. Dynasty Warriors 9.
Dynasty Warriors 9.
Got announced. It's going to be open world. Speaking of open world, we're going to be talking about that later. Big thing that we're going to do. You're going to explore the castles, and you're going to be climbing walls with grappling hooks. Typically, it's just all on the floor, and you're just running through, like, some quick dungeons. I don't know. I'm wondering what they mean by exploring castles.
Yeah, it looks like if you find a keep that an enemy's defending, you'll be able to break in, and then hopefully that'll be, like, another smaller map inside.
Okay.
Or something.
All right.
Yeah, the main series has been pretty stale lately, just because they're up to 8 now, and
yeah, you can't do too much.
They do spin-off stuff like Empires.
Run through a field and kill everything. Through a field and kill everything.
Hopefully this brings some new life into the series, because I have fun with the games for a while, and then, it becomes more the same, so maybe going open world will be what the series needed.
Or just give it another IP, and then it's brand new again, like Legend of Zelda. Or Fire Emblem, as they're going to do sometime
something like
in the future.
That. Next up, we have we heard that Prey, the game from Arcane Studios.
Yep.
That got a speed run of 40 minutes. And the guy, I believe his name is Draku, and...
Wait, hold that thought. Getting news right now. Breaking news. Draku just beat his record again at 19 minutes and 34 seconds. That's right, from 40 minutes, more than 20 minutes to 19:34.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. We were playing it the other day, and that was.
We're at like 2.5 hours, 2:15.
Hold on. Okay. No, look. Okay, I'm just getting in that he beat his time again.
Wow.
Draku has his new time is 10 minutes and 52 seconds.
Did he beat that faster than it takes him to beat it?
So while we were playing it, he probably could have beaten it like 8-9 times.
Okay, and now that's garbage. That's old news already, because Procky, Prokky, Procky has beaten the game in 6 minutes and 6 seconds.
Wow.
In a week, the speed running record got beat 4 times.
Oh my god.
For a game that we've already been 2.5 hours into and don't know how long it's going to be.
Yeah, he could have beaten it, what is that, 10? Several times.
A bunch of times.
Like 24 times while we were playing it last night.
This is starting to reflect poorly on the dev. It's not so much skill on these guys. It's more seal that game up. It's 2017, goddammit.
I think they were trying to give the players too much freedom. I've heard some examples of players going out of the walls using their powers and doing things that they didn't really think were possible. So I think this is kind of like glitching a small extension of that. And hopefully they can fix it without breaking like what made the game good. In terms of what was supposed to be done. But
maybe use a hit detection and solid geometry.
Yeah,
maybe.
We'll see. That's still crazy, though.
Steam Store is going to start showing you why it's recommending games. In an attempt to better serve individual players, they're going to show you why they're showing you specific recommendations. This is so that then players can give more feedback based on the criteria that they're getting.
It looked like they're dividing players up more classifications, like people that specifically will hunt for a niche title, or people that spend hours looking at the store for something to buy, or the people that go directly for the thing they're buying. And they're trying to better cater to each player to kind of, I think, to get it more personalized and hopefully you'll find more titles that you actually enjoy.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the classifications or the way they divide people up, and those are very specific. I saw some patterns between them, but I didn't really understand all of these groupings. Madden 18 is going to get a story mode just like FIFA 17's.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of FIFA 17's. It looked, you make a character and he starts off in a training camp for soccer. You work your way up in the world basically, and depending on how you do in the training camp, it gives you more opportunities later on. There was even a component like Mass Effect, also by EA, published by EA, where you can decide how your character is going to react to interviews. So he could be like a cocky hothead, or he can be more calm and a humble player. So it looks like Madden's getting something similar to that, and it was pretty cool. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the FIFA games, but that mode in itself was worth delving into for, in my opinion. So hopefully this is equally successful.
I wonder if you get to talk and get and endorse vendors in the different stadiums to get discounts.
This is my favorite stadium in the Citadel. We mentioned last week that Black Ops Zombies Chronicles was going to be released, and we didn't mention the price tag. We
had a guess of about $30.
Turns out we were right. It's $30. We just wanted to confirm that for anybody that was wondering.
$29.99 if you're nasty.
And then other news for a game coming out next year, apparently, God of War. Kind of reboot, kind of sequel looking game. Mm-hmm. More of a sequel, I guess. He looks so different.
It's still, he's older, but I'm pretty sure spiritual precursor.
Well, because it looks like it's a new lore. It looks like it's Norse mythology now instead of the Greek. But anyway, the voice actor for Kratos, Christopher Judge, on his Twitter bio, he says he's the VA, and on his, I believe IMDb, he said that under his voice work for the game, he listed it under 2018. So, I mean, take that as you will. It seems like the game is going to be delayed. We haven't heard anything about it since the announcement trailer, but maybe at E3 they'll say something about it. And speaking of E3 and big gaming news, Destiny 2.
Gameplay reveal.
That's this Thursday in 2 days, probably tomorrow if you're listening to this, May 18th specifically.
Yeah, it's May 16th as of the time of this recording.
They're going to be showing off, finally, the first look at Destiny 2. If you're in the UK, Odeon Cinemas, they're going to be streaming the gameplay reveal, which is pretty cool. Yeah. You can go with friends to the theater and then grab a bite to eat afterwards, talk about it.
Not opposed to having that happen more often over here.
Yeah, it seems really cool. People are already speculating that some machine guns are going to be a new type based on some images.
All right.
Yeah, and speaking of Destiny, a group of players has managed to beat all of the raid bosses, like all the challenges, without using guns. They took them 60 hours, but they were able to use their supers, their grenades, their melees, all to avoid actually firing a bullet. I'm not sure if that counts for the golden gun on the hunter, but they said they only used guns where it was absolutely necessary for the raid mechanics. Like in Wrath of the Machine, you have to use cannons to blow up this robot and then throw something at the boss from the robot. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's Borderlands is my closest thing, and not using a gun in that's not exactly easy for non-melee.
Later on, you can use your skill.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're using supers here, and that's the same thing.
Okay, yeah. People are dedicated to this game. Hopefully, the second game has that same following, because you see people doing crazy things. I think there was a group of 2 that ran the raid, the first one.
Okay.
Or some people were even soloing it. I don't know. It's insane.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe beat Prey to number 1 this week is by 600 sales. This is
wow.
It's kind of a big deal considering how big Prey was supposed to be. Prey was totally a AAA title like any other big AAA title from Bethesda. And it still didn't manage to secure the number 1 spot on its release week. Mario Kart 8 is still going very, very strong.
I do feel like that's a game that's going to spread through word of mouth, though. Like, even you and I didn't hear too much about it, and now that I'm hearing more about it, I'm more interested in getting it.
It was probably affected by that whole denying anybody a review copy until it was, day before or day
That's
of?
True. Yeah. No, yeah, Bethesda's reviews policy is not helping them. But, yeah, like, trying the game out. The demo itself, it wasn't all that enthralling. It just shows you the basics, and I heard that the game, even playing it got better the more you played it. So showing off the first hour wasn't
not the best, not in their best interest.
Not the best sales pitch. Mm-hmm. But yeah, actually, it did take the number 1 this week, which I think is the first time it has since Fallout 4 for Bethesda.
Okay, all right.
So that's good for them.
The week after then.
Yeah, like I said, I think
Mario
this game
Kart swag is starting to die down.
And I think that Prey is hopefully starting to build up that sales.
Okay. Yeah, because there's no reason not to play it.
It's great. If you loved BioShock...
We'll cover it a bit more in a bit.
Ready or Not, it's a tactical game like SWAT, like Rainbow Six Siege.
Okay.
Yeah, the trailer we saw, it looked great. I'm not sure how much of that was gameplay, because, obviously trailers always look better than the game. The game is supposed to feature incremental leaning and door opening, so, if you don't want to just kick the door open Resident Evil style or Resident Evil 4 style.
Yeah.
You can just kind of slowly push it open. You can look slowly over walls.
Yeah, the notes said a lot about using the mouse wheel to control a lot of this incremental stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, you engage it and then you start scrolling the mouse up or down a little bit for how far or how quick you want to open it. That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah.
No videos yet, no trailers there was a trailer, but I don't think it was a gameplay trailer.
No, yeah, like I said, it was just a pretty trailer. One of the things that I did kind of focus on, I noticed, was that the game is supposed to be PvE right now. I think they want to add PvP, but the communication is really important in these kinds of games because you have to work tactically and swiftly to bring a good ending to the situation. And to that end, they're going to allow players to see each other's, like, how they're reacting to them, if you're reloading, somebody else can see you reloading. If you're going to grab a grenade out of one of your pouches, they'll see you reaching into your pouch to grab it.
Yeah, some of this stuff seems like standard affair, but they're going a bit more into detail. Like, it is important that you go and see what your friend character is pulling out. The animation is a lot more like it's going to keep them in place.
It's
because they're busy
synchronized.
doing something.
Yeah.
The important part is the fact that they're doing something and you need to still be aware of the fact it's going to affect gameplay that they're busy doing something else.
Because you can't have this character shouting, reloading.
Yeah. Yeah, the game, we didn't hear about it until we started looking for what to talk about this week, and it just kind of blew our minds. Like, wow, I don't know why I didn't hear about this game before, because it looks like it's going to be a really big deal. We normally weren't going to cover it, but then just looking at the other articles about it, this looks like it's going to be really big.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about it, and I don't give a damn about SWAT-like games. The gameplay mechanics look like they're going to be promising.
Yeah, and the trailer was well made, so hopefully that same level of polish is in the game itself. The release is to be announced. It's being developed by Void Interactive.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Zelda is coming out with a mobile game, according to Wall Street Journal. It's just a couple of rumors, right?
I believe Wall Street Journal. I believe they confirmed it, but there's nothing else known about it.
All right. The Zelda game's going to come out for mobile.
Yeah, it's supposed to come out after Animal Crossing, but we don't know if that's going to be this year. It looks like it'll be next year, and they still have no word on if it's going to be free to play with some transactions or just a straight out buy like Animal Crossing and Super Mario Run.
It looks like Retro Studios is teasing the hell out of a Metroid game release, and possibly Prime. Alexander Brandon, a former Deus Ex music composer, he has been working with Retro and has been stated as saying he can't say what he's working on at those studios. He's a self-professed Metroid fan, so all signs kind of point to the fact that he's working on something related to that. That coupled with the fact that from Retro Studios' Twitter account are pictures of prime rib with just the caption delicious. Or I don't know if it was hashtagged or just it said delicious, but...
Yeah, hopefully that's a sign that people are finally going to get another Metroid game, like not Federation Force.
Yeah. The series producer had also stated in 2015 that the next game would be coming out for their next system, which means, okay, we got the Switch now. When they say next system, I mean over the Wii U. So we have the Switch now. Hopefully it's just a little bit of time and we get an actual announcement and not just cruel teasing of delicious meats.
Okay, so the creators of Parappa the Rappa and Guitar Man have teamed up and released a Kickstarter for a game so far called Project Rap Rabbit.
Project Rap Rabbit.
It looks pretty cool. If you like those games, the rhythm games, it looks like it's going to be mixing like a feudal Japan with hip-hop and then just a mishmash of those cultures.
Holy crap, it's not Cowboy Bebop, but the other one, Samurai Champloo.
Yeah, something like that. So far what we've seen looks pretty cool. It looks like instead of just doing what Parappa the Rapper did, where you're repeating back the phrases in the same time, you get to kind of pick the emotion with which you're going to be rapping. Like if you want to make a joke or if you want to be boasting, you'll be able to rap that way, and it would have different timing tracks, basically.
Yeah.
So you're going to change up your style based on how you're doing, like your swag meter. or your health, basically.
There are a few concept images out, but unfortunately, like I said, just concept images. No videos of it yet. I really want to see how it ends up branching out and what are the different things that you can get your Rap Rabbit to say. That's just really cool. It's expanding on what we've come to know from both those games, Gatoru Man and Parappa / Jammerlami.
Yeah. I've been reading that some Overwatch Pro teams have been dropping out of Blizzard's official league before the league even starts.
Yeah.
Allegedly, it's because it costs $20 million to franchise an official team.
That's not a small.
No.
That's not a small entry fee.
Compared to League of Legends, that costs $1.8 million. At least that's what one team paid last December. 5 teams announced that they're dropping their Overwatch teams. Team Solomid did admit that the cost was a big factor, but they're not the only ones that dropped out. There's also Team Splice, Denial Esports, Red Reserve, and Complexity Gaming. Blizzard responded, but they did say that they're not ready to really say anything about it. They just warned people not to assume everything is true. So hopefully that's not the case, because that seems like an just insane amount of money. But they also said that they want to be putting these teams out in major cities, kind of like sports teams. So we'll see where that lands when more news comes out.
I mean, it's great. I'm always all for the expansion of video games getting just as much excitement as real-world counterparts with sports and stuff like that. But
without the brain damage.
Yeah. It's sports without the brain damage. But that is a steep asking fee, considering that League of Legends is out has been far more established as a tournament thing, and there's only a $2 million difference. Every one that's not too big a difference comparative right there. Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood that. It's 1.8 million versus 20 million. Wow, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. I can understand a lot more now why everybody would just be dropping out. I literally read this whole time 18 million versus 20 million.
But
right
yeah,
there.
like you said, that's an established, thing. And yeah, Overwatch is successful, but it's not even been out a year. So hopefully that
putting a little bit too much. We're not sending people to go physically train for anything. Come on, you're probably buying a bunch of Monster. In a few cases, 20 million is
Doritos and Mountain Dew.
Yeah, there you go. And 20 million is a lot to be asking for that kind of a sponsorship.
That's it for the news this week. Hopefully these stories shake out a little in a better way. But we wanted to review some games this week. You were playing Bye Bye Box Boy, right?
Bye Bye Box Boy. Pretty great game by HAL Laboratories, published by Nintendo. Came out last month, the 12th. Kind of weird to try and say anything about the graphics or the sound on this one. Neither are bad, but they're so simplistic. It's like to say anything about it, I don't know. The graphics for the way it looks, just walking around, it's basically a line art of a box who walks around. I like his animations. He has a nice, cute little victory pose, and they're pretty different when you complete the end of the level. Looks kind of cute when he gets hurt.
Does he look like a box though?
He totally looks like a box. There are 4 sides. They are equilateral. Yep.
Okay, so I mean, at least they got that right.
I mean, you can't get it wrong. The sound, it's got a good, it's chiptune and very basic. It's not annoying, but it's not anything to really
elaborate.
Yeah, it's just there. It's sound to be sound. I don't want to say that it's not bad sound at all. Everything turn the volume up.
It goes well with the game.
Yeah, it's just nothing too crazy. Obviously the big thing about this game is the gameplay. The whole franchise, it was the whole box copy mechanic.
It's like a puzzle game, right?
It is you'd have to call it a puzzle game. Like every challenge is a little puzzle.
Yeah.
You use your QB as a QBBY. That's what I'm gonna call him. QB is the main character, and he can copy and make boxes. So you can make them above you, to the left or right of you, directly, no angles.
Okay.
And you can extend on that depending on the level's box limit. So if the box limit is 5, I can create a chain that extends outward from me in any direction, up, down, left, or right, and even 90-degree angles. I can make up to whatever. So if the box limit is 5, I can have 3 boxes sticking out to the right, and then I can have them start going upward 2 more spaces up.
Okay.
There's pits that have all sorts of spikes. There are lasers to be avoided. There are bottomless pits. and you use the boxes to kind of hook onto the ledges. You can, if you start a trail of these, a chain of boxes, and one of those boxes is touching a floor where Box Boy could still stand, you can just kind of not teleport, but get scooted on over across a gap or a plane.
Like a hook shot?
Kind of like a hook shot. Very much like a hook shot. It doesn't hit the wall and attach to it. It has to be somewhere where you can stand. But otherwise, basic same idea. The game introduces you to new ways to use the abilities that you've had since the beginning. There are a couple of worlds that will introduce completely new abilities. They're just slight twists where, mechanically it's still familiar enough that you just need to be given maybe 1 or 2 screens of introduction to these gameplay elements, and you will understand what the goal is for the next preceding world. Every level in these worlds gets progressively harder with the bits that they've already shown you. So it doesn't ever feel cheap. As you're looking at the screen, you're just sitting there, and they're done so simply that you really do feel pretty dumb when you don't get it. When you finally do, bust through the wall and okay, I really can't believe I didn't see that. That was just dumb. And the crazy thing is you swear to yourself, all right, now that I know that one, I'm not going to get fooled by it again. And then they do one little change up on the next one, and it has you thinking for another 2 minutes, even though the solution is, it's almost the same thing. I just wasn't paying attention to this bit, that bit. It does a really good job of making you feel that right kind of dumb. It's this was my fault. The game is not being hard, and the game is not trying to be dirty or trick me.
And it's not being condescending about it, is it?
Not in any way, no. Like I said, the graphics look simple, and it's extremely kid friendly because the graphics are simple as hell. The sound is just cutesy, but it definitely is going to get a little bit harder, and I could imagine it frustrating some of the way younger players. But it's a great. I'm sitting here playing it. I didn't think much of it at first, from looking at it. I was a little hesitant even. I started playing it, and now I didn't want to really put it down. I've gotten through to the second planet. There are 3 planets in the background.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
3 planets. Each planet has, I guess, maybe about 6 or 7 worlds, and each world has 7 levels in it. So yeah, we get up to it will have over 100 different challenges in it by the end of the game.
Wow.
And it introduces, this is the first one to introduce, I guess, box boy babies or baby box boys. And when you get those introduced, you'll have some kind of new element to do with them. They're going to be following you. You have to escort them through the level. And then the world after I got my first one, that first one, spawned a new ability for me to use. It was crazy because I thought it was just a little baby box boy. And then out of nowhere, it spawns and creates this amazing, light show thing and empowers me with the ability to create box rockets.
That's what all babies do, don't they?
I think so. That's why hospitals are constantly in danger of just flying away.
How much was Bye Bye Box Boy?
At $4.99 on the eShop, this is a really, really great deal.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And just a couple, and already for $4.99, it has surpassed what I expect somebody that would just be paying $5 for this game. The quality of the game is definitely above that. They could have easily done $20, I think, for this game.
Wow, all right. So it looks like you got a really good deal.
Mm-hmm.
We were playing Prey. We talked a little bit about it earlier, but
yeah, we even got to stream it last night for a couple of hours. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, the demo, like I said, it did not do the game justice. It immediately, after the point where the demo stopped, it just ramped up in how fun and engaging it was.
Right.
Graphically, and this game was made by Arcane Studios, published by Bethesda Softworks.
They will not let you forget it throughout the intro.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it came out 11 days ago, May 5th.
Right.
But it's still new, and it's still like I said, people are speedrunning it in 6 minutes. It's still a hot topic, and it was the number 1 seller
this week at least.
Yeah. As for the graphics, it looks great. The human characters are a little weird. They look kind of cartoonish. Kind of like Dishonored?
Yeah, they're not deformed or anything. Proportions are still fine. It's just the art style looks in between realism and Dishonored, where it had some kind of stylish, not realism to it.
Yeah, I think they were trying to avoid that uncanny valley kind of thing.
Right.
And it's good that the graphics look great. There's a small enemy named a Mimic that will basically try to copy an object to hide and then attack
are they
you.
mimics? Aren't the small ones typhons?
Typhon is the race. That's a Mimic.
Okay, all right, cool.
I think we saw an example where a trash can rolled down the staircase.
Yeah.
You hit it, but then the trash can up the staircase was the Typhon, was the Mimic.
Yeah, these things have the literal ability to mimic any in-game models that are approximately their size.
Yeah.
And I might be making that up. I'm assuming that approximately their size. It first introduces you to it by
a cup of coffee.
Yeah, a coffee mug is the first mimic that you see. So when you start realizing, okay, I got to be on the lookout for pairs.
We started hitting everything in sight.
Just if there was, okay, there's 2 coffee mugs on that table, break them. Let's see. Okay, neither of those were anything, but let's turn the corner and now there's 2 boxes just sitting there.
It's great though when they hide and you see them transform into the object and you think they're so clever.
Yeah.
And then you shoot them and you get extra damage.
What I like is that it gives you a little bit better insight to what you should be looking for when you do walk into a new room and they are there, like seeing like, okay, they know you can mimic a trash can, but they don't know to stand in the corner and make sure that the opening is facing where, a person could actually throw trash into it.
Yeah.
If it's slightly askew, take your wrench to it.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of comparisons to this game being like BioShock or System Shock. It actually, the decor so far has looked a bit like BioShock, Rapture.
Right. It's a little bit, even being encapsulated in space, I made a couple of jokes where I saw stuff like some of the walls were breaking out in, I think, that beginning sequence.
Yeah.
Like you're looking out, and in the distance, on this same base that you are in space, you can see like this wall being blasted outward. And I'm like, oh, okay, is the Big Daddy going to come out of that?
Yeah. It looks great. As for the audio, the sounds were pretty creepy. We'd be walking along a hallway and all of a sudden the music would start up and you'd hear like slithering and we're like, what?
It makes you start looking around in that way that a developer wants you to start looking around because you're a little bit scared.
Yeah, it created a lot of tension, and especially because we're using headphones. I think that's definitely the way to play this game. If you have a nice pair of headphones, slap those on because, man, and especially with the directions, like you can tell where kind of they're coming from.
Yeah.
The music, though, like it seemed kind of like it was messing with us. At one point, we were just standing in a room and it started really intensely. There wasn't anything in sight, and then it just stopped abruptly. So it kind of put us on edge.
I wanted to mention that, like, it sounds great, but, there were some points where we were just exploring a room, and all of a sudden you hear, like, a string swell, dun, and we're looking around and there's nothing. And it's like, I get it if that... I mean, maybe it's supposed to just generate, a constant sense of fear, but it's kind of annoying when there really was nothing in the room and you're just looking around for recycler parts,
I liked it. It reminded me of these stories I'd heard from the set of The Shining, the movie.
Okay.
Stanley Kubrick used to, torture Shelley Duvall. Basically, he would, keep her on edge by just firing a gun around her. Just randomly.
My God.
He had, the set basically riddled with booby traps, basically, just to, keep her frantic. And so when she appears that way in the movie...
inspire another game.
When she's in the movie, appearing terrified... It seems like a genuine reaction to what he was doing. Right. So this kind of seems like what they were going for, where it's messing with you to kind of scare you and make you paranoid, basically. Suspect everything. You hear the music, and now you're starting to look at every object as it might be a
mimic. They're definitely hitting the mark.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't think it was too bad. As for the gameplay, we talked about it a little bit already. It feels a lot like BioShock. You even have a wrench as your first weapon.
Yeah.
But apparently the game is more of a tribute to System Shock 2, which is BioShock.
It's supposed to be, but I still BioShock, I liked it very much playing throughout, and games don't need to copy any other games in any aspect, so it feels kind of weird that as much as it already has, it's like, I know that they're saying that a lot of this stuff is homages to those past 2 games, but I don't know, it just feels a little bit too much now. Hacking is included.
It's a little different. It's not just a little pipe dream
thank
game.
Goodness. But then there's, like I said, that decor that's constantly running along the walls. That those like 4 or 5 golden like bricks that are just around the walls remind me so much of just the same kind of decor that would lead you to hidey holes.
To be fair, though, I've read that the decor in the game, the space station, it varies based on when the stuff was built. So some of it will look like Soviet era, like cold steel.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna get some variation there.
So I think
right.
that the same way that BioShock was taking that retro futuristic, like what do you call it, Art Deco kind of
right,
style.
Art Deco.
I think that's kind of where it's drawing the same influences from. So hopefully the setting varies a little more. Otherwise, yeah, it seems like BioShock in space.
Yeah. I mean, even which was System Shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a spiritual successor to System Shock.
Because, I mean, you even have on the freaking bottom right, it might as well say Andrew Ryan, the dude telling you everything. What's his name?
No, it was, it was somebody else. Patrick or something.
Yeah, no, his name's not Andrew Ryan, but yeah, it's...
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. It's just been a while. But yeah, you even find neuro mods, and they remind me of plasmids, but they don't just give you a power. They're more like the tonics that you would get, and they would give you points to upgrade into something. So we were able to run faster, or swinging the wrench would take less stamina, or we were able to scrap objects into materials to recycle, which sounds lame, but you actually can build stuff in the game. It's pretty cool when you find an object. I accidentally turned somebody into a lump of organic matter. It was already a dead person, so it still feels kind of bad. And now I'm looking at every corpse. I'm like, do I need to recycle
I wonder
them?
what there's that terminal that we found that is basically that to find all those bodies. I wonder what happens to her body now, or what it says of her body.
Yeah, there's a checklist of crew members, and they're checked off as you find them, but they're saying like no vital signs or alive. So I'm kind of curious to see, like, now that they don't exist anymore, what happens to
it was cool
checklist.
To see that even in game they had that journal entry where the lady talks about how she didn't get far enough and her foot got
stuck
caught
and is now missing.
Yeah, you can actually collect, like, there's a organic matter sitting there, and next to it is the note saying like, this is what happens, or like I threw and it didn't get away fast enough and my foot got caught in it. My foot is now the organic matter you see right here.
Oh, but no, the game seems intuitive. I mentioned, I think last week in Zelda's we were talking about it, where it seems like if it seems like you can do something, it usually works out that way, that you can do it. In this one, I shot an electric current and it ended up arcing across the room, almost killed me.
Yeah.
And I just ran through not realizing what I could have done. When I found a flame jet later on, I used the glue cannon on it, and it actually plugged up the flame jet. So it made it safe to go through, and then I was like, okay, maybe that'll work with the electrical stuff.
Yeah,
and it did. For a point.
Is pretty versatile.
The electrical current will eventually break through, but it creates a safe passage for a good while.
Yeah,
and
just
even
long
lets
enough for you to go through.
Or you can repair stuff, so you can go in and repair.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was because the broken stuff will be emitting electric arcs. That's right.
Yeah, and then I was fighting the pair of these flying robots. One of them, I froze him in midair, and he actually collapsed to the floor.
The baby robot.
Dragons. Yeah. So, I mean, the game so far seems great. Apparently, you get powers later. We haven't found any yet. So I can imagine that kind of thinking where you're like, does this work? And it probably does, is going to only increase exponentially when we finally get those powers. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to finishing it. But, so far, I think it's definitely worth the $60.
Yeah, we've only been 2 hours, 15 minutes into it. And, we want to keep playing it. We're going to see it through.
Yeah. There are a lot of games coming out soon that I'm actually really looking forward to. Rime, that one's coming out in 10 days on May 26th. And it's coming out for PS4, Xbox One, PC, and in the summer it'll be coming to the Switch. It's being developed by Tequila Works and published by Greybox and 6 Foot. And it looks like it's going to be an adventure exploration game with some puzzle elements in it. It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think classic Zelda it didn't look like any combat.
No, but there were some moments where you're running from terrifying creatures. So.
Oh, yeah, there actually were some things you were running from to avoid. But this guy doesn't hold a blade or a weapon of any sort in his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like he was going around the standard puzzle affair where he's pushing around cubes and boxes and big
There
old sphere.
There was one moment where he pushed his sphere
which
around
was
and
just, no
the
biggie,
sun.
just changing time
Yeah.
as he shoved it across that little sundial looking thing.
The moon was flying across the sky as he pushed it. It looked really cool, and the game looks beautiful.
It does. The draw distance, looking at things in the background, it looks as amazing as the stuff that's right up in your face. It makes for a beautiful environmental shot.
It reminds me of The Witness. It's taking place on an island, and it's a puzzle game. There was a tree that was featured in the trailer, and it reminded me of a few puzzles from The Witness.
Super, super pale white tree base, along with like a really nice, bright, colorful leaf palette.
Hopefully that's fun as it looks, and it doesn't get repetitive or isn't like you're throwing yourself into the corner because you can't figure out a puzzle.
Yeah, it looks like a solid title. I haven't been following it at all. Looking at it right now though, it's just I need to play this ASAP.
Yeah, it'll be out in 10 days, so hopefully we can.
Ubisoft has got a boatload of stuff that they want to tell everybody, thanks to their sales report.
Yeah, speaking of boats, Assassin's Creed, they took a year off, which I think is ultimately going to help. We'll see when the game actually comes out, but it looks like they're going to Egypt this time, and ships are making a comeback. Hopefully it's as good as Black Flag, because I really enjoyed the ship combat in that one.
It was great.
Although you're not going to be a pirate in this one, I don't think, so we'll see how you have a crew or weapons and see how that works out. It did look like the character had a bow and arrow and was supposed to kill somebody called the Crocodile.
Okay.
Unless it was actually just the crocodile.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The mission objective is to kill the crocodile, but it's not clear whether or not they actually mean a crocodile or if that's going to be the nickname of some nefarious person you got to end the life of.
Yeah. Egypt seems cool. I was always hoping they would go to Japan, but this is... I'm not going to be unhappy with whatever they make as long as it's enjoyable. And hopefully it's more Syndicate than Unity.
Okay.
They are expanding another of their franchises, Far Cry 5. It looks like it's going to be a Western.
Okay, so the rumors and the speculation and all the smoking guns lead to it probably being a Western. But Far Cry, like the devs have officially decided not to comment on it, right?
They said Far Cry 5 is announced. They didn't say what it was.
Right. They refused to answer anything about it being a Western.
Yes. Jeff Gliot was directing a trailer for a game, and it looked like it was a Western, just judging from all the stuff that they were actually filming. He did say it was a sequel to an existing game, and he has worked with Ubisoft before. So there's not a whole lot of other franchises that could conceivably fit into this way. But with Red Dead Redemption 2 coming out, it looks like, cowboy open worlds are, on the horizon. Hopefully this is what Far Cry is going to be, because, I would enjoy that open world exploration, hunting, and with Far Cry, it looks like it'll be good. But it'll be out during this current financial year, which is between now and March 31st of next year, so we'll see when it actually does release. They also announced The Crew 2. Now, if you don't remember, The Crew 2 was a racing game. Basically took the United States and compressed it. So you had like a few big cities and then roads, and the geography was matching with...
the baby states of America.
Yeah, apparently it took 45 minutes to drive from one coast to the other.
That's how long it takes me to get to New York from here in California.
From across the street from New York. So we'll see how that... We'll announce more news on that game when it comes out. And the last game they confirmed for this year was South Park: The Fractured But Whole. Developed by South Park Digital Studios, obviously published by Ubisoft.
Gotta love that name.
It's sequel to The Stick of Truth. It looks like it's going to be more XCOM than it was just a turn-based RPG like the last game.
Yeah, that's right. They're going to include tiles in the fighting, right?
Yeah, so hopefully that doesn't ruin the gameplay. I know a lot of people enjoyed The Stick of Truth. And maybe the season of the show will lead up to this like The Stick of Truth did.
So the topic discussion of this week was supposed to be open world treatments and games that did it well versus games that didn't do it so well. And as I kept looking for more arguments and games that didn't do it so well, this just kind of ended up turning into why Metal Gear 5 should not have gone open world. Now, I don't want you guys to get me wrong. Apparently, it's a good game. I'm not gonna know that because I went through it trying to do stealth and all that. I wanted to play the way that the original games had you playing with an emphasis on stealth, but that wasn't being rewarded so much in this game. It really focused on freedom, a lot of freedom.
So much.
This isn't to say also that it didn't do so much with the story. I've been bad on following the story, although I do appreciate how much work they put into it with it. When I'm talking about this game not being a Metal Gear game, I mean mechanically. Story-wise, they made it fit, and some people disagree or do agree with that. They have their opinions of that. That's fine. I'm only talking about mechanically. Open world treatment, just I don't think this game should have got it. Or at the very least, it didn't do it as well as some of the other games that I want to talk about have done it. Like, one example of a game that did it really well is Jak and Daxter. The first game wasn't super linear. It was the most linear of them, but it kind of employed that whole, like, Super Mario 64 or Sunshine-like world hub on that main island, and you use that as an entry point to get into any other level in the game. In the sequel, Jak and Daxter 2...
Actually, it was just Jak 2.
Jak 2, that's right. So, in the sequel of Jak 2, they borrowed from GTA, which was getting really popular at that time, especially on PS2. GTA 3 had come out. Open world, like everybody wanted sandbox. Having come off of Jak and Daxter and that world hub, open world seemed like a natural progression in this game as opposed to an introduction of a new feature. It didn't seem so foreign, but it still did a lot of things that Grand Theft Auto was doing. You can go anywhere, you could drive, you could take other people's cars, you could approach missions in more ways than one, but then also it still wasn't without its root linear levels where you're basically on a track running into the background, which was inspired from Crash Bandicoot, and still using the spin attack, along with the newly added gun mechanics that changing gun had. The scatter blaster, and that's really the only one I remember, the scatter shot, I think it was called. But the gun was a very good addition to that game. The whole open world thing gave you a lot of freedom, but it still didn't stop being a Jak and Daxter game. The main gameplay elements were all still there. They didn't shy away from the basic stuff, jumping and spinning, and at the same time they added onto it by giving you the gun. The third game would simply, add on to that. It was more, the third game was felt like an early example of DLC, where it still used the second map and added missions.
Well, it was the same map, but there were some events from between the games that changed the landscape a little.
That's right.
So, for instance, the main city was being destroyed or something. So it felt different, and then the map became more accessible because of new abilities that you would get.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, you're right. It feels like an expansion. When World of Warcraft had Cataclysm, just a bunch of shit went crazy.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, it was good.
Now, like I was emphasizing there was the gameplay elements and how well they progressed them. One of the things that I noticed in Metal Gear, in the first, at least 1 through 3, still on 4, but starting to drop its focus there. Every time we got a new iteration of Metal Gear, we got new tracking mechanics from the enemies. It would become harder to hide from them. But then at the same time, we got new ways to hide from the enemies, like the camo index and the octo camo. Sound became a very important thing, especially in 3, where you had to use the D-pad to really sneak next to an enemy. Like, using the control stick at all would cause the enemy to hear you, even at the weakest.
Why?
On Metal Gear Solid 3, the slowest speed on your stick was not as slow as using the D-pad. Yeah, no, I remember a lot of times where I would want to be sneaking next to a guy to stick dynamite on his back. And when I first... it was something I liked doing on Metal Gear 2.
I thought you just were doing about the non-lethal.
No, this is when I was having fun with Metal Gear 3.
Okay.
But, so I was trying to do that, and then that's how I learned is like, oh, damn, there is a difference between those. The slowest one on the analog stick is not the same as the one on the one
So
on
that's
the...
for, like, fine-tuning or...
This is for...
precision movements.
This dude is within earshot, basically.
Yeah.
So, and you don't want him to hear you. And if anything, it's just one of those other features that came in where it focused on stealth mechanics. Starting with 4, it became a little bit more open at that point. They started introducing Drebin points and started putting more focus on weaponry and buying them. There was a lot more lethal weapons, not to say there was a focus on them, but there was a lot more big, boomy, kill the bad guy weapons. Not so many, let's just put the guys to sleep and try to sneak around them. I mean, the game even introduced those big, spoilers for anybody who hasn't done 4, with the mecha fights where you use Ray and Rex. It's a beautiful, wonderful fight, but you're supposed to be a stealth espionage tactician guy.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think they took off the tactical espionage action thing after, 3.
You're not wrong, but the game is still putting a big emphasis on being quiet and not being heard. And then this stuff happens.
I think there's just so many ways you can improve being sneaky before you're like, okay, we need to, change it up somehow. And that's giving people, I think, more freedom to play how they want to, you know?
Yeah, that's right. You're not wrong. But that's exactly the point I feel that I'm arguing right here. Is it gave them more freedom, but now it's not being so much... it's losing one of the core gameplay mechanics that made it Metal Gear. Or not so much losing it, but is straying away from it. What it once was, it's starting to follow into mainstream generic, we can be any game now, which is what I'm trying to say here with this game's treatment of open world.
Yeah, I see that.
We have Zelda Breath of the Wild, which just came out a little while ago, and just blew everything out of the water by having simply removed all its hand-holding, all its linearity.
Nice.
It lost all of that and just dropped you in the middle of a world and let you do whatever you want, while still retaining absolutely everything that makes Zelda a Zelda game. At least the good ones, the ones that we missed. We're not getting those horrible tropes of something telling us what a thing is every time we boot up the game, because we remember a little bit beyond that, guys. Come on, don't be this condescending to us.
Yeah.
So it just really lets you take on everything however you want, and it still did not let you forget at any point that it's still a Zelda game. You didn't have Navi telling you, hey, listen, and you don't have the hearts beeping at you super loud and incessantly.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't notice that.
You don't have those old things that we've been wanting to get rid of, that it's okay, we understand why you put it before. You wanted to put an emphasis on life. But there are other ways to do it, and now it's we're way more open to just get them more health. If you really don't want them to be that low on health, then okay, when you get something like Mifa's Grace, and it gives you your health back plus 5 extra hearts.
Yeah.
It's all right, cool. That is a way better way to not annoy us and still be concerned about us trying to live.
And plus, if I have 10 hearts and I'm down to my last 1, you can bet that's all I'm going to be focusing on, whether or not there's beeping. Yeah, I don't need a reminder, and especially one as annoying as that. I'm going to be playing more carefully because that's what I would do.
Mm-hmm. And here we are talking about things it removed, and it still is a Zelda game. It still feels like a Zelda game because you're running around with Hylian Shield. You're still Link. It doesn't feel separated from everything else, as far separated as it is from the last few entries.
Yeah, and I mentioned I think just in an earlier conversation we were having, that the games before would constantly give you a task to do, here, do this, do that until you beat the game.
Mm-hmm.
And this game, it gives you a lot more freedom, where it's just okay, you can go do that when you feel like you're ready. So it's not a concrete goal, but as you're exploring the land, you make your own goals. Like, for instance, spoiler alert for anybody who's just completely unaware about the game that's been very heavily talked about the last few months. The Master Sword. You find the Master Sword and you can't use it right away because it'll kill you if you don't have enough hearts to basically wield it.
Yeah,
you're not strong enough.
That was a really cool trial.
That becomes, like, for me, like, my goal that I went out and I found the sword even though I didn't know it was there. And now I'm working towards this thing. So I'm still, like, have my own goals and I'm still getting stronger. But it's not because the game told me, hey, here's another heart, you're getting stronger. Here's another, like, medallion you need 6 of to get to the final boss. No, it's because I set a goal for myself and I accomplished it eventually.
Yeah, it's so much more satisfying when, like you're saying, you do it yourself as opposed to knowing that you're just filling out the next story beat in this progression. To know that that's not this next scripted event necessarily, it's great. Like he said, it's great because it's what he wanted to do, not because somebody, whether it was implied or not, told him to go do it.
For Metal Gear Solid, how do you feel like they should have kept the stealth elements in? I mean, you're arguing against an open world?
I'm arguing against how much freedom they gave it. This game, because I feel like it just strayed so far away from its roots and started just becoming more generic in its entry into open world. Like I said, everybody likes it. It's a great game, and it is. The mechanics that are in it are solid, and it does have stealth in it. But it is not rewarding you like it used to. It is not focusing on it. It is not implicitly telling you, hey, it is a lot better to not kill people. No one's giving you any guilt trips. Like, I mean, maybe you didn't like it, but then again, that just means that Metal Gear wasn't for you. But a lot of the story deals with the morality of murdering people and killing people just to get your own end and to get your own gain. And that's completely gone in Metal Gear Solid 5. Of course, you have Rising. And yeah, he is slicing people up left and right. And yeah, he's slicing people up left and right. But it's Metal Gear Rising. It made sure to differentiate itself. It is not Metal Gear. That was not Metal Gear Solid 4? Or it came
5.
out. Yeah, that wasn't Metal Gear Solid 5. Metal Gear Rising.
So this should have been Metal Gear open world.
Whatever. Metal Gear Venom. Metal Gear Poison, something to deal with something like that.
Yeah, I see your point because I was asking Jeff about the game, and I asked him if he'd played this because I wanted to talk about this week. He told me that he had played this and he enjoyed it a lot, and he says it felt to him like a Metal Gear Solid game because there were times where he could sneak around and there were those opportunities to take the road that's like not necessarily easier, but for him was more rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
But this, I think, was the only Metal Gear Solid game he played, so maybe that wasn't...
Yeah, that's not a good place to start for...
Although I do see his point that you do get that freedom. I mean, even in the older games, you still had the option to just blast your way through, and sure, it was maybe a little easier, but at the same time, it's like, I'm doing this because I have this sense of right and wrong, even if it is just a game, like... the character that and the world and the story that's taking place is one that you want to make yourself in that, like, no, I'm not going to kill people because I don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the most part that's true in this game, and it just, there are a few moments where it very heavily is like, no, you should probably just kill him. It'll be a lot easier. And it's like, why? Why would you make the game? Because there's a lot of weird times where you can, like, take a horse, run somebody over, knock them out, and then, like, sneak into a camp that way. Like, that's just, you created an opening for yourself.
Yeah.
But then you get to a boss fight, and it's just not feasible or just realistic to expect that you can avoid direct confrontation and then also to eliminate them by non-lethal means, which you can do for most any other boss in the series.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying. I just don't think that necessarily open world was what was wrong with it. I think it was just a matter of finding equally viable lethal and non-lethal options. Especially the fact that you can you can carry off the soldiers and add them to your team.
Yeah.
That's what I did most of the time anyway. And it wasn't because I was like non-lethal or lethal. It's like I would run up to them, slam them on the floor, and then...
Yeah, knock them out, and then that way they get out of there. Which, I mean... That in itself I already have opinions about too. Because, I mean, like I said, it's a stealth game. It is not the quietest thing to have somebody be flown off by Fulton.
Or like a chicken that's crowing as you carried it off.
A cow that moos, the dogs that bark, whatever.
Or the bear.
Like,
I think there's a bear in there that will like whine as it's getting carried off.
There's just so much that isn't
Metal Gear Solid.
And it's not like it has to be classic Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, I mean they
include new things.
They did Metal Gear Acid for the PSP, and that was, I think, its own like parallel story that had nothing to do with any of the other games, and it had a different gameplay mechanic, which was card-based movement and action. So I mean, yeah, I think this is definitely a game they could have, because even, well, no, they did Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops and Peace Walker, and those are the prequels to this game, but this could have been Metal Gear Poison Venom, because it was, you know, I just think they maybe thought that this was, they blindly put their trust in this. And it's a good game, and that's not the problem. The problem is that it's not Metal Gear Solid tactical espionage action.
Right. Like, so another game that contrasts this, though, is Final Fantasy 15. This game, it throws in open world. Actually, this is probably a bad example, because I'm trying to talk about the roots of Metal Gear, and this game doesn't even do turn-based at all anymore.
Well, it's not even that, but
game now.
Even from the first game, you had the overworld to explore, but I feel like with 15, it just gives you so much more freedom versus like, okay, you can explore this, but only so that you can grind through levels and then be strong enough for the next part. This was like, no, you know those mini games that you usually get to 40 hours in? There's some of them here now. There's some side quests now. They peppered along the entire game what you would normally find concentrated in one area, and then made a world around that where you can explore what you want to when you want to, for the most part.
Right.
And if you don't want to go somewhere, it's usually because there's a demon waiting for you that's like 50 levels higher than you.
Yeah.
But it still is Final Fantasy.
Right. You still have Chocobos running around. You're still doing spells like Fire, Ice, and
Blizzard, Thunder.
Yeah.
Each game was already so different from the previous one and the next one that, like, that's not the issue here. I mean, you always have, like, Ifrit and Shiva and magic and crystals and chocobos, like you said, or Rubles. There's things that connect the worlds. I think there's a Sid in every single game. This is pretty much all you need to make it a Final Fantasy game, almost. And it's not necessarily a strong thread, but it's something that they've always stuck with, you know. As long as we have these few things, there's some common themes or systems like the magic or guardians or summons. It's Final Fantasy, and so I think this was a great franchise that could just jump into open world and still be an okay game. Especially because they've done 2 MMORPGs, and those are
indeed
almost as open as you can get.
Yeah.
Obviously, this one had a little more linearity than you would expect, but still, it's open world and it's fun and it's good. And
I didn't even factor that in when we were thinking about this.
Yeah.
Square. This isn't the first
foray.
It
is
into
Final
an open
Fantasy.
World.
It's not Final Fantasy open world. It's Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
And that's an okay title for it.
Yeah. One way to summarize what I'm thinking, I guess, is you're saying with Final Fantasy, if you were to throw in other characters in there, it would still feel like a Final Fantasy game because of the mechanics and because of the enemies that you have in there. It still has things that harken to Final Fantasy. That's how Zelda gets their first foray into open world right. With Metal Gear, I don't even have to say that you can throw in any character, because you literally are given that ability when you make whatever face you want on that character.
Yeah.
It's not Snake in there. It's not. That's. It literally isn't. It feels too far apart from anything that previous Metal Gears wanted their player to do or challenge you in that way.
To be fair, that is like that for a reason, to tell the story that they're telling. And like you said, it's not the story that's the issue. It's not the world that they build. It's the gameplay. It's the fact that this game goes so far out of its way to punish you for being stealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And it just changes so much of what made the series originally. Like, you are one man sneaking into, against all odds, into a fortress of enemy soldiers to stop them from destroying the world, basically. And now it's, you're one guy and his two lieutenants building an army of already like sizable, force to just be stronger, to be the place that every soldier wants to be part of,
Mm-hmm.
And it just, something gets lost in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's still fun. We can't stress that enough. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
But it's...
I do want to sometime maybe go back when I have like a 3-day weekend or something and just go through it like crazy with a bunch of lethal stuff. But I have always been like super excited and hardcore about trying to not kill anything, be tranquil through the whole thing. But I couldn't do that with this one. I didn't get that opportunity. A lot of people... There are articles you can find about the Skulls fights and trying to do those non-lethal, and they're like it's a very not well-known problem. It's well documented, I guess. Problem, like there are issues trying to get through this game non-lethal, even though it tries to stress the fact that you can do this any way you want.
Yeah, well, with Kojima leaving Konami, that doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it even seems like they kind of learned because Metal Gear Survive is the next game, and it looks like it's going to be a huge departure from what the series has been so far. Although, I mean, you don't always have to take a step, quote unquote, forward. I mean, No More Heroes went from an open world game to being more linear, and that you said it was better, right?
That worked out for it. I assume because of hardware limitations. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the reason why the open world in the first No More Heroes, it was bland as hell. It didn't have any pedestrians running around through it. You didn't have any other traffic that you were going to run into. There were a couple of NPCs standing around, but they were there for missions or they were there for some specific kind of interactivity. Other than that, there was barely even anything animated out there. It was a very static...
That's bizarre.
Yeah, it wasn't... and like I said, it definitely was not intended to look like that.
Yeah.
You could see that there's a lot of potential in that art style and how wacky and how just out there, how
yeah, the guy's name was Travis Touchdown.
Yeah, the place is called Santa Destroy. Like,
okay, yeah.
It had if it was on any other system at the time, on either of the other two systems at the time, or on PC, then that place could have been fleshed out so much nicer.
Well, like in I think Dead Rising came to the Wii, right? And
they had
hundreds of zombies that you could have on screen was down to like 15.
Only so many. So I feel like their solution to that in the sequel was actually to remove the open world thing, and instead they turned the overworld just back into what it used to be, and that's the main, or just a menu, a level select, a world select menu. And that's essentially what the overworld is just an interactive menu that you get to be in. It's the next evolution of the GUI.
Oh, the great example, Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Underground 1 was just menus. Like, you could see the city, but it was just, like, it highlights a part of the track that you're racing on.
Right.
In the second game, all of a sudden, you get into the city and drive wherever you want. And it was amazing, because
Did you play Burnout Paradise?
Burnout Paradise? I did. Yeah, I did.
Same
similar,
idea.
Concept, where it creates a world and it still retains, like, I mean, obviously racing is the thing, but even in Underground there were like hidden shops that you could find that would give you extra stuff. It was really cool. But it just reminded me that another game that went open world successfully.
And and it worked out for it. So there are ways to introduce open world and ways to introduce freedom without removing the core gameplay and the core not aesthetics,
mechanics.
But mechanics.
Core tenets.
The core tenets that made your game, that make that franchise a franchise. And I feel like I said, I wanted this to be games that do open world well and poorly, but it's not. Like I said, it just feels more to me. I just have a problem with it having gone open world. I wish it was still inside bases, in hallways. I wish it was still in more confined areas. Metal Gear Solid 3, I think, hit that really good.
Oh man,
middle ground.
Yeah, I thought that game was going to be the whole jungle, and I remember thinking, like, how are they going to section off the jungle? Because in 2, it was one big facility, so it's just rooms and hallways. In this one, it was like, no, here's a patch of jungle. You can go into the next clearing, and that's the next quote-unquote room. But it's still, like, it felt great, and especially because of the camouflage, and that played such a bigger part. And then with 4, they got kind of lazy and were like, here's a suit that can automatically match whatever you're lying on.
Yeah, whatever the hell you're on. It was cool to... It was a really cool idea. I was very much impressed with the idea. I thought that was badass, but then seeing like how it affected gameplay, it's like this is going to push the player into more action, not more stealth. This is
it just makes it easier to be stealthy, and it makes it
you're
boring.
Gonna move faster. Yeah, this is not an exciting, riveting thing. I'm not wondering if I'm fitting in well. It tells me exactly how well I'm fitting in with it, and I can literally copy the texture that I'm laying on, sitting on, standing on.
Yeah. I think that might have been the beginning of where they started focusing on action.
Like I said, Drebin points, that whole system, 2 hours worth of conversation with Drebin.
Yeah, that game was so... Metal Gear Solid, the movie with some gameplay.
Yeah, basically. But that's just my take on open world and how it affected Metal Gear. I really wish that it just went back to something a bit more linear. That game doesn't need to be open. That game... Stealth, if anything, fits better in a slightly linear environment.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, that's our take on it. We'd like to hear if you guys have any open world examples that just didn't really mesh with you. So leave a comment on the YouTube video, email us at gamegopodcast@gmail.com. You can even leave comments on gamegopodcast.com, and we'll probably mention it or at least reply to you specifically in the next episode.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe you'll inspire a whole segment.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much for listening.
This has been the GameGo Podcast. I am Sonorith, and with me always is H8BitHero. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys. Bye-bye.